Hi students, today's lecture is about paper number 1 of your CSEET, the Foundation Entrance Test, and this is regarding business communication. So here in this on the screen you can see business communication and the chapters in our subject. So there, as you can see, they're very basic subjects, but I would say that not to take this subject very lightly, because the subject not only plays an important role in clearing your paper, but it also plays an important role in your upcoming career life, because once you clear your company secretary, or from the start of your industrial training and everything, in rather in your MSOP training also, we people train you to be an expert in business communication, because nowadays all everything of your professional expertise and everything can only be determined and acknowledged only if you have good communication skills. So business communication comprises of your reading, writing, verbal, and even listening skills. So this particular paper is all about learning and making yourself an expert in it. And not only you should be concentrating on this subject because you have to clear it, but also because if you excel in it, it is going to give you an edge over others once you are through with your exams and you are in the field of, in the competitive field of company secretaries, chartered accountants, ICWAI, cost accountants. So even MBAs for that matter, IIMs, MBAs, the experts of commerce. Basically, you would be regarded as the experts of commerce. So for that, the most important criteria, I would say, is knowledge. Expertise is knowledge, and to deliver that knowledge you have to be an expert of business communication. So you have to have good presentation skills. You should be able to present yourself very well in front of the whosoever you are sitting, be it your manager in your job, be it your be it your own firm when you're representing to the clients about your own work. So I have been into corporate, I've had experience of 10 years in the corporate field. So I've worked in firms, I've worked in MNCs, and what all I have observed is, having a set of, having knowledge about the laws and tax, the other subjects is one thing, but to be able to deliver it and to be able to showcase your skills to others is another talent, and it is also valued at the same level and at power. So if you have the knowledge but you're not able to showcase it, so it's not worth it. That is why you have to be an expert in business communication also these days, and this is precisely the reason that it has become part of your curriculum in ICSI. So let's take a look at the let's take a look at the topics we have in our this paper, which is the first chapter says is English grammar and its usage. The other one is enriching vocabulary. Comprehension of passage and art of summarizing is third chapter. Concept of business communication, chapter number 4th. Listening skills, chapter 5th. Business correspondence. Concept of e-correspondence, common business terminologies. So as and when we are progressing toward in the chapters and when we are coming to the topics, I would be explaining you what exactly the meaning of that particular thing is, as well as I will be correlating that to the practical or the outside world scenario. Once you are a company secretary, how useful all of this would be, so that you are able to relate it and you are able to understand that how important it is for you to have good business communication skills. So I am not starting with chapter 1 and chapter 2 today. Even chapter 3 I am skipping that because I think a normal simple reading of these chapters will also make you learn, will make you understand these chapters, and I don't think that you should find any challenge. But in case you want me to record a separate video of chapter number 1 and 2, you can email me or WhatsApp me. I would be happy to help you guys. But I think that this is very basic, and there is, there's nothing much to explain about it. But if any of even one student would, if even one student would ask me that please we need a separate video for that, I would be I'd be doing that for you guys, so just let me know. But as of now, I'd be starting today with chapter number 4, which is concept of business communication. So coming to the chapter number 4th, which is, so students, as you can see, I am referring to the ICSI study material only because I had gone through it, and I think this is comprehensive enough, and I do not think that you should go read any other books because it is very well explained. In it has everything in it and whatever you need for the paper, and also otherwise. So if you want any extra additions, we would be taking up the examples to explain it. But I don't think we should be referring any other book, or there should be another extra study material that you should be referring to, because ICSI's material is sufficient. And regarding more practice or to understand the concept, for understanding the concepts, if you need more of the questions to practice, that would be definitely there. And even the MCQs we will be practicing after we cover a sufficient portion of the subject. So MCQs will be there, and I don't think that after looking at my lecture you would need to go anywhere else and or to refer any study material, because it is sufficient if you take a look at my videos only twice or thrice, even once if you pay full attention to it. So coming to our chapter number 4, which is concept of business communication. So as you all know, business communication is, let's just take a look at whatever our module says. The word communicate has been derived from the Latin word communis, which means to share. Now, communication is a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. Now, it is the expression of facts, opinions, ideas, or feelings. So, coming to understanding what exactly does the concept of communication says. Now, communication is what? What I am doing right now is also a form of communication. I am trying to explain you what communication is. That is through the way of expression of my facts or my ideas or feeling, trying to explain it through my words. I am trying to tell you something. So this is what is communication. You are trying to tell something to the other person by way of by verbally, by way of signs and symbols, sharing your ideas or opinions, like how I feel about communication, what the concept of communication means in simple words. When you're trying to tell someone regarding an idea or your feeling, that is the meaning of communication. So it is an essential condition for our existence, like it's said here. It is an essential condition for our existence and the most important activity of human beings. Now, this is one thing which separates us, or which makes us have an edge, you could say, over other species on the earth. Like we are able to communicate with each other. We are able to tell what we are feeling. We are able to express it in all forms of ways. We can tell it, we can write it down, we can talk over the phone, and all sorts of there are means of communication which would be going further. I'll be explaining that to you. So communication can also be referred to as exchange of information. I have something to tell you. Now, I am teaching you, or in other words, also, I have something to tell you, and I'm going to tell you through over the call or through any other medium, be it an email, be it a text message, or be it verbally, or be it face to face. All these are methods of communication. So, for communication, obviously, if I have to communicate it to myself, I do not need to speak it. I mean, what would I explain it or communicate to myself? There should be an exchange of ideas or information between two people. Minimum is two people. That if I have something and I need to share it with someone, so one, it could be two, it could be multiple people. But then at least two people should be there, wherein there is a communication of any idea or a feeling or any message. So now, as I was explaining communication, let's just write down some short points so that you come understand what we are actually trying to say. Since this is all in paragraph, you can break it down into points to understand. Like now I am explaining, you can take a note of it in your books, and also remember that this first line is very important. The word communicate has been derived from the Latin word communis, which means to share. Most of the students would just take a reading and not pay attention to this, but these small facts are important for your objective type questions, because when objective type questions are framed, it is kept in mind that all to judge that students are paying attention and students know even the minute details, these types of questions are framed. So it is important for you to understand whatever is written in the books. Like here it is written in a paragraph, you can break it down into points. So we will go point by point while I'm explaining it to you. You can keep noting it in your notebooks. Right, so like I explained, this is important, that where did the word communicate come from? It is derived from the Latin word communis, which means to share. Now I've read across this definition of communis, and here I've taken a note of it. Now communication, once we break down the definition, here we can understand by breaking it down. So basically, what is communication? It is a process, right? It is a process. Here if you see, it is a process which results in exchange of information. Now here if I underline that, I mean I'm just not making so that it would look messy, which is why I'm just moving the cursor over there. That process, communication is a process which results in exchange of information between individuals, and the main purpose of communicating is to transfer the information which one person has to the other. So when would we come, how would we know that communication has been done successfully or not? So we would regard that communication has been done successfully if the message which was intended to be delivered has been understood in the same way by the receiver, like here, right? So this is step one, if we say, right? This is step one. Okay. This would be step two. We are breaking it down just to make, I'm breaking it down the definition just to make you clear. If you've understood it, well and good. So the point number two would be transfer of information. This is our purpose when we are communicating. This is what we're trying to do. We are transferring the information that we know to the other person. Then the third thing which is important in the communication process is that the receiver should understand the intended message. So, for example, now here I've quoted an instance where Pallavi's boss asks her to write an email and fix up a meeting with XYZ company for discussion regarding financial assessment. So now communication is supposed to be done by a way of an email. So Pallavi is supposed to write to the client XYZ company and fix up the meeting as discussed by her boss, and she has to tell the client regarding the meeting that they are planning to have a meeting for the discussion regarding financial assessment. So there are two, three So how do we understand what I've just further initially explained, that here there is a transfer of information first from the boss to Pallavi, that you can I'm making myself repeatedly telling you this instances, so that when you are writing down, you know what I'm trying to tell you, and when you're making notes, you are able to write down each and everything. So first and foremost is there is the transfer of information, firstly from the boss to Pallavi, that he wants to fix up a meeting with XYZ and company for the discussion regarding financial assessment. The second information transfer is that he wants Pallavi to write an email to the client, right? So that is also again, so all these are the transfer of information. One communication is done from Pallavi's boss to Pallavi, then the another that is a verbal communication. He has orally or face to face spoken to Pallavi and has asked Pallavi to write down an email with and fix up a meeting with the client, which is the XYZ company, for discussion. So two forms of communication here we are talking about. One is the verbal communication, wherein Pallavi has been, asked by his boss that she needs to write an email to the client. So the second form of communication would be via email, wherein she would be writing to the client XYZ company that we want to fix up a meeting with you regarding the discussion of the financial and assessment of your company. So this is just I did not make it very complicated, because I did not want you to get confused. Further, we will have more examples wherein all the details would be there, proper details. But since I was explaining right now that we are talking about only communication and what communication actually means, so in simple words, communication is just an exchange of information. And the example here I've referred, that this particular one statement consists of two types of communication. One, Pallavi being communicated by the boss that she's supposed to write an email to the client, and in the email she is communicating with the client and asking them for fixing up a meeting for discussion of their financial assessment with them. So two forms of communication. Now, this is a form of communication as well as business communication. Let's quickly take a look at this, give a quick reading to this paragraph and also these definitions. So a number of definitions have been given to the term communication. A few important ones are, since it's not clear here, you can take a, you can zoom in your computers. I would suggest that when you're taking a look at my videos, you can open the PDF which has been provided by the ICSI Institute. The material is there on the website. If you want, I can share the link with you guys, but you just simply have to log into ICSI, and therein you will see the academic portal. Then a link to CSEET would open, where you have to click on the reading reference material, and there all the 4 subjects will have their PDF copies. So you can open this PDF when you're going through my videos, so it would be easy for you to relate and read, right? So now the first definition is by Mr. Hudson, which says that communication in its simplest form of conveying of information from one person to another. So like I am just delivering this information, and I'm trying to explain you this particular concept. So this is also called conveying of information from one person to another. So this is the simplest way of explaining what communication means. Moving further, communication is the transfer of information from one person to another, whether or not it elicits confidence. So all of these definitions are a way of just explaining what communication actually means. So for you, it is important to understand what communication means and also take a note of these definitions, because a question can be made out of it, that they can simply write down communication is the definition of the communication, and then they can question that this was this definition was quoted by A, B, C, D. They can give you the names of the authors, right? Now, Sir Alan Lewis has, made a comprehensive definition of communication. So let's just go through that. The above definition was by George Terry, which says that it is an exchange of facts, ideas, opinion, or emotions by two or more persons. Like I also earlier said, that two is the least, is the least number of individuals which are involved during a communication, because between a single person, there can be no communication. Because what will I be communicating to myself, that I already know everything? And a single person cannot talk to itself or himself or herself. So that is why either two or more than two individuals, communication happens between them. So it is just a simple exchange of facts, ideas, opinions, or emotions for that matter. So even when you guys, two or three people are smiling and exchange of emotions, they're smiling with each other, or one person is crying in front or sharing their, emotions with the other. So that is also a way of communication. And now communication, the definition by Sir Alan Lewis, communication is the sum of all things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another, right? uh, it's just a way of looking at how you are trying to explain your concept. Like I am trying to explain you communication in a different way. Somebody else, if you want to take a look at understand from someone else, they would have a different perception or way of explaining. So it is all about how you look at it, right? So it is a bridge of meaning. It involves a systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding. So like he's saying here, he's referring that it is not that you just came up with an idea and you just blurt it out, or you try to explain it, or whatever it was in your mind, you just spoke it and the communication process is complete. No, it's not like that. If you're trying to explain, you have to explain it in a way which is understood by the other person also. So once you have delivered the message, the purpose doesn't solve here. The purpose solves when it is successfully delivered and the intended meaning of the of the communication has been understood by the receiver. So here, Sir Alan Lewis has rightly covered the concept of delivery of the message is successful communication. I mean, it is important that the message delivered or the message intended to be delivered is understood by the receiver. That also comprises of the part of communication. Okay, so now we will I will just tell you what all important things are there. Obviously, whatever we have covered is important, and whatever is there in this paragraph also is the same thing which we have already discussed. So let's just quickly take a look, and you can just underline, like here it is mentioned that communication is a two-way process. Yes, understood, we have discussed about it. It is an essential condition of our existence. That's okay. So there must be at least two persons to allow the completion of the process. That also we have discussed. One takes up the role of a sender and the other that of the receiver. Like I am the sender of the information and you guys are the receiver of the information. So Webster's dictionary states that communication is the act of exchanging information and understanding from one person to another. For communication to be successful, the exchange of ideas and information must result in imparting and understanding its intended meaning. Like we've said, that it is very important that if I am trying to tell you something, you being the receiver should be able to understand what I am trying to tell you. Only then will my purpose of communicating that particular message is solved. Here, so its purpose is to effect desired changes in the behavior of the receiver of the man. Thus, communication is the transfer of information from one person to another, and its goal is to have the receiver understand the message as it was intended. Okay. So three things here in communication we can say. One is that I am trying to deliver a message. The other is you have received the message. There is transfer of the information. third and the most important, that you have understood the message which is delivered in the intended way of what I am trying to say. I mean, see, now there is a part of interpretation. What I'm trying to say, it can, if I'm not communicating properly to you, it can be interpreted in any other way also. So that can lead to an unsuccessful transmission of the message. So that is, the sender also has to keep in mind the way they are delivering the message should be rightly taken by the receptor, right? So like we discussed in our example, the email, and Pallavi's boss is trying to has communicated her to write an email. So there are forms of communication. One is writing and one is speaking. So both the things involve language. When I'm communicating it to you, my language has to be proper and clear and concise and apt, concrete, everything. There has to be clarity in what I'm trying to tell you. Similarly, you have, while you are writing, be it an email or a text message or anything, you have to write it also in a proper way, so that the message, whosoever is reading that message, is understanding the way it was intended to be understood. Hope I have made myself clear. I mean, by quoting the examples and everything, quoting the definitions, we have covered everything that was there in that part. So I've not missed out anything. You can just quickly take down the important underlining parts, which I have also, we have discussed for earlier. And here also in this particular paragraph, like I have explained, that it is a two-way process. It must involve two persons, at least two persons. One takes up the role of a sender, the other that of the receiver. Communication is the act of exchanging information. Exchange of ideas and information must result in imparting an understanding of its intended meaning, and the communication is transfer information. That's the same thing. Receiver has to understand the message as it was intended, the most important part. This is what determines the successful communication, right? Now, business communication. What does it say and how it is different from the concept of, it is not different from the concept of information, but it does involve other aspects. So let's just take a reading of it. When one communicates to transact some commercial activity, that is providing goods or services with the intention of generating profit, it is termed as business communication. Now, according to Scott, administrative communication is a process which involves the transmission and accurate replication of ideas ensured by feedback for the purpose of eliciting action which will accomplish organizational goals. Now here, if you see, we are talking, the one more term which is added is feedback is important. So what does this feedback determines? This feedback determines that whether what we have passed on to the other person, in term, when what we receive as a feedback would able to assess whether the message which was transferred was delivered aptly or not. So the importance of communication to an organization, all the more so to a business organization, cannot be overemphasized. It links not only the various components of the organization, but also its internal world with the external world. In order be proficient, in order to be proficient, here it is a miss. In order to be proficient in business communication, it becomes imperative to acquire skills of effective writing and speaking. In fact, lack of these may result in loss of business opportunities. So, like I said, that effective business communication skills these days are an important part for every individual who wants to be a part of business, or who wants to join an organization, who wants to have an organization of their own. Because if you're not communicating rightly, it is definitely going to make a bad effect on your ongoing business. Because when the messages, even internally as well as externally, if you're not able to, now being an employee, if you're not able to explain it to your boss or your colleagues what you're trying to do, or whatever you try and do, the message being delivered is not uh, being rightly delivered, so that is going to hamper your position in the organization. Likewise, if an organization is not able to communicate well with the outside business environment, then that will definitely hamper the business of that particular organization. Because there will be, they like I said, there are interpretations of everything. If the message is delivered correctly and is interpreted correctly, it is going to give you an advantage. But if it is going the other way around, it is definitely going to be a disadvantage for you. So now, like it's saying here, so therefore curriculums of most business schools, so that is why MBAs are more focused on having good communication skills, were more focused, but now these days we are also uh, you know uh, these things have become important in our curriculum as well. So earlier the students were not inclined towards having good presentation skills, focusing on their reading and writing skills, but these days it has become imperative and very important for you to survive and excel in your field, right? So this was a basic intro of what business communication. And here we were talking normally about the exchange of ideas. Here in business communication, how does communication and business communication differentiate? The only not the only difference, but the major difference is, here we are talking about a transaction or a commercial activity, and it involves providing goods or services with the intention of generating profits. So herein our business is also involved in it. And we are not only talking about external communication, we are also talking about the internal communication. For example, in an organization there are all the departments. Production is there, supply is there, so revenue is there, um, human resources is there. So all of these departments have to be in sync, and they can be in sync only if they're communicating effectively with each other. So if there is a lapse in communication, so they won't be in sync, and ultimately what would happen? The business would suffer, right? So a few add-ons I would like to give in this lecture. If you want to improve your communication skills, what are the points that you should start practicing apart from going through whatever is in your curriculum? Is first and foremost, if you think that you're not fluent in English and you want to first improve your English, right away start reading newspapers. And believe me, children, this is important because you have to not only pass this exam. I am time and again telling you, this is very important for you, as once you become a company secretary, there are a lot, there would be a bunch of challenges which would be ahead of you. And the fight doesn't stop once you become a company secretary, it just begins. Because there'll be the whole world outside wherein you have to compete with chartered accountants, company secretaries of obviously your own fraternity. There'll be more company secretaries passing out, so you would be not the only one. And then you will have ICWAs, you'll have MBAs, you will have lawyers. So it is a whole world outside waiting for you. And if you have to enter and take a place in there and take a prominent place where which you aim for or which you have been dreaming about, you have to make yourself fully prepared, right? So becoming a knowledge bank, and just it is important to have knowledge of all these subjects which you will be studying in company secretary, but at the same time it is very important that you are fluent in English, you are able to present yourself and in front of an expert panel, or once you become a company secretary, when you go out for a job, the confidence that comes when you know that you're fluent in English and you can communicate well in English, so that confidence will not be there in the other students who would not practice well for business communication skills. So it is not a subject for you, it is a skill that you have to own and that you have to excel in. So make it a motto, and if you think if you'll take it as that this is a skill that you have to own and you have to excel in, you would definitely start your start trying and start your start making efforts for yourself, because everybody knows that where they are lacking. So if you think that you would have to work on your English speaking, English fluency, you should start reading newspapers, start watching news channels that which are in English, not the Hindi news, only the English news, and preferably CNN, IBN. If to begin with you find that language is difficult to understand, you can start with the English channels like NDTV news and all. And initially it would seem like you will have to develop interest in it, you have to take you have to be determined and focused that no, you need to do it. Initially it would seem a little difficult, but once you start watching them, you will develop interest, because you will be gaining knowledge, not only learning English but also gaining knowledge of what is happening in the outside world. See, you can choose to see whatever your interests are in. If you're interested in stock markets, or if you're interested in business news, or for that matter social news, I mean, if you're watching series on your whatever web series, you can watch series or of English, the series which are in English, or you can go for, to start with, the children who have very low confidence, to start with, they can start watching Hindi or probably English series which have subtitles in it, wherein you can see what they are speaking and look for the subtitles. And believe me, over a period of time, if you even do it for a month, you would see that there is a lot of improvement in your, because right now if you start, you have CSEET to clear, then you have your executive exams, then you have your professional exams. If from the beginning you've started working on your communication skills, and till the end, you'll definitely find yourself in a better place than you are right now. So how can you improve yourself? And you can always take help from me. Apart from that, what are the pointers which you can practice, self practice at home? Would be reading newspapers, be it the Economic Times and be it the Hindustan Times, the business column of the Hindustan Times, Times of India. Why I'm saying business columns and Economic Times? Because these information would be related to your field, and keeping an update of what is happening in the finance, or in our whole economy, and all of this would definitely be an advantage for you. And okay, so if you want to practice on your writing skills, you can start writing articles, you can start blogging, but don't spend too much time on it, because you have also your exams to clear. So it can be, you can just make or reserve some time wherein you have to practice on your communication skills, maybe half an hour or an hour, and trust me, this is going to help you long term. And a lot, see, I am telling you everything by my own experience. Thankfully, I did not have to have faced this challenge, but I have seen students, interns in my career, who were so good at their knowledge, who were, who really knew everything, but their confidence level was so low because they knew that they cannot communicate well. And they passed their exams in first attempts. They were so good at studies, they even cleared and got 70 marks in their papers, but just because they knew that they cannot speak well in English and they cannot write well in English, or once they are sitting before a panel who is experienced enough to come in, and they were so low on confidence that they were not able to present. I myself have rejected interviews of a lot of students because my panel was not interested to enroll them, as their presentation skills were not good and up to the mark. So that is why I am forcing you to just start practicing on these skills, because I do not want a student who is an expert or in his field or in his subject, his or her subject, and because of lack of confidence of not being able to present themselves, or they know inside that they do not have those communication skills, or they start feeling that inferiority complex once they see people outside who are so well in communicating, even graduates for that matter, who have had the chance to work on their communication skills. They are so well, they present themselves so well that the students from our fraternity who have done so much hard work, who have you know uh, studied day and night, and they are the experts in the subject, the confidence just crashes when they see that the other people are communicating well and we are not that good in that. So they are not able to present, and then that is why that the reason they lack is this. So I do not want any child to face this particular challenge, and which is why I am forcing that you should, from this day onwards, you should start working on your communication skills, and this is going to definitely help you even in writing your papers and clearing your exams, as well as in once you are in the field and once you are competing with chartered accountants and the MBAs or lawyers or the other experts of the commerce field, you have that confidence that you know your subject well and you can compete and stand out in front of them. So take my advice, start working on it, take out some time, half an hour or to 1 hour is also sufficient. And if you are facing any challenge, if you want that I should help you out with this, you can reach out to me. You can WhatsApp me, you can call me, and I would be happy to help you. Okay, so we were talking about, if you want to so the self practice things are reading newspapers. For writing, you can start writing articles, start writing short stories, and also one more important thing which can help you is you can start writing your own diary. The daily habit of writing a diary, 5 to 10 minutes, that would also help you, because start writing a page or two, and then once you are in the field, once you join your trainings, and once you join the industrial training, or those the ROC trainings and all, you will understand that yes, whatever I was saying is definitely does definitely applies in the practical life, and it is going to benefit you. So you'll start working on them yourself. So this is a little tip from my end to you guys. Start working on your communication skills, and any help needed, I am there to help you. Okay. So moving on to features of communication. Now, communication is essentially a two-way process. Yes, of course, the sender and the receiver. Because a two-way process, the sender transmits the message to the receiver and the receiver receives it. Once we receive the feedback, so that is the way of assessing that whether our communication is successful or not. So the success or the failure of communication is decided by the feedback we get Hence, feedback is essential to communication. You can write down over these points, you can write down small headings. Like for communication, you can write for the first feature, you can write it's a two-way process. So just the heading two-way process. And that would be, while you are revising, you'd be able to understand the two-way process is one of the features of business communication. The second comes as communication is an ongoing process, right? Communication is essential in all kinds of organization and at all levels of management. No manager can be effective in his role unless he is able to communicate. Professional and result-oriented organizations are always looking for managers who can communicate persuasively and competently. So again, the second heading would be ongoing process. Okay, write it down on the second point. It's an ongoing process. So ongoing process would be the heading. Or you can just underline if you don't want to make your page look messy. You can just underline or highlight these two things, two-way process, and the second one would be the ongoing process. So what this point is saying, that communication is essential in all, like I explained in my earlier example, there are different departments in an organization, and communication between them is also essential, because one department cannot keep working and just believe that the organization is working effectively until and unless they are if production is happening, they have to communicate them that how many goods and services have been produced, or whatever the production is, what is the quantity of that, and how much supply is available. They have to communicate that to the supply team. And once the supply is has started going out, so cost of production plus the number of supplies gone, so the sales, so all of this is so much interrelated, how to generate profits or how much profits is generated, that communication will again go back to the management. So coming to our point, so this communication keeps on happening in the organization, and then there are different levels of organization. We have the higher level, we have a middle level, and we have the supervisory level. So all of you know what high level management, middle level management, and lower level management means. So just a quick revision of that. High level, we have the strategic management, wherein people, as in the chairman, the board of directors, the CEO, CFO, all of these come in the higher level management. They are the ones who take the decision of decisions for the organization, the bigger decisions, I would say, taking a call on how much is the profit of the company and how do we move about so that the company earns more profits, whether the company is going into losses or what are the challenges ahead. These decisions are made by the higher level management. Now coming to the middle level would comprise of the managers, senior managers, so production heads and all the department heads of the organization, who would who take care of their own departments, who head their departments and ensure that all these departments work in sync, and they work towards the common goal of making the organization's objectives achieving organization objectives. So these are the middle level, and coming to the supervisory levels would be again the subordinates of managers, who are at the at a level where they are handling the certain set of people and leading a team, wherein all of these three management levels are working towards one single agenda, which is to work towards a common goal of achieving the objectives of the organization and making it a profitable organization. Okay, so what all again, communication becomes an effective part of it, because all these decisions, the transactions being taken or done by all the levels of management are communicated to each other. So all these departments are linked through communication, and if any of them, as a manager or as a senior partner or as a team lead, fails in their role, so it would eventually fail the company's objectives to achieve the desired goal, right? So which is why here it is written that professional and result oriented organizations are always looking for managers who can communicate persuasively and competently. For example, if you have a deadline of 3 days and this project is needed by the management to be prepared, and it is not possible if you only put in your hours which you have like for example 6 hours, or these are the challenging times and company expects, so there is a competitive world outside and company expects you to be over efficient. So if there is a deadline of 3 days and you need to complete that, so the burden comes on you that how efficiently you are. You have to first understand that how you will be able to do or complete this project in 3 days, and then you have to make your team help you out in for these 3 days, and then there'll be all sorts of challenges, so you have to persuade them, you have to motivate them, and you have to make them believe that yes, this is possible and they'll be able to do it. So this is the challenge for a manager, and a company looks for such people only who in the challenging times stand out and deliver the work in the designated timeline. Now, communication consists not only of facts but ideas and emotions too. Communication is much more than words. The tone and facial expression often carry a greater meaning than words. We can communicate a lot through signs, symbols, gestures. For example, a victory sign made by two fingers communicate better than words. So now coming to the same example, what we were discussing. So for that project report, you have to not only tell your team, you have to sound confident, you have to have those emotions, and have to, you cannot just be there, go and say that you need this and you have to just complete it and give it to me. There is nothing. You have to have those emotions, you have to express them with the idea that how will you do it and how will we complete it, and we all are in this together and we have to make it possible, and we have to stand together. Not only you need only one person's effort, you need all the team efforts, and this will only happen with the efforts of the team comprehensively, and not only if one person works and the other person is not giving his 100%. It won't work that way. It basically comprises of that you have to not just merely state the facts, you have to give them the ideas, you have to make them feel the same way by expressing the emotions, by inculcating the emotions in them, and then only communication becomes much more than words, because here you are expressing the ideas, you're expressing through your emotions, and which is why it is it accounts for all these things also, because it plays a major role in communicating. So like now right now I'm only, if I only read this, communication consists not only of facts but ideas and emotions too. Communication is much more than words. The tone and facial expression often carry a greater meaning. We can communicate a lot through signs and symbols. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? Nothing. It is not called communication. I am just reading it out, that you can also simply read it out. Unless I explain it through my own ideas, through my own emotions, by quoting examples, by making you believe that yes, you can do it and you are understanding it, by ensuring that I get a feedback from you that whether you understood this or not, all of this comprises of communication and features of communication. So first would be two-way process, first feature. Second feature would be the ongoing process. Third feature being it not only consists of facts but ideas and emotions too. The fourth point would be communication is a dynamic process. Now, how it is a dynamic process? So it is not constant for sure. Communication keeps on, right now, for example, we have this lecture, then we will, I would expect a feedback from you all. After that, we will have a second lecture. So all of this goes on. Likewise, in an organization, if one transaction is done, once that completes, there'll definitely be a follow up leading to another new transaction leading to the third transaction. So all of this goes on. The business environment is not static, nothing is constant, everything keeps on changing. Likewise, communication also is a dynamic process, and if it is not a dynamic process, it won't survive. Communication will not have any effect on the business environment otherwise. So it incorporates the changing shape of the participants and the environment. So since business keeps on moving, communication keeps is an ongoing process. So all of this taking to it together, the business environment also is dynamic and it keeps on changing. So likewise, what does communication do? It incorporates the changing shape of the participants and the environment. Now coming to the fifth feature of communication, which is communication is a goal-oriented process. Obviously, we are being a business environment, being a business organization, what we are working towards, like I explained in our second paragraph only, that all the levels of management are working towards achieving common goal of a business organization. So communication is being also done towards this goal, or the business goal of the organization. Thus it is a goal oriented process. So it can be effective if both the sender and the receiver are aware of the goal of communication and there is congruence of their goals. Absolutely. So all the three levels of management, the higher level, the middle level, and the lower level, should know that they are working towards a common goal. And if they're not in sync, it would definitely lead to not achieving the goals, or there'll be a gap in achieving the goals. So all of this would hamper the objectives of the organization. So there has to be a sync, and the sender and the receiver should be aware of the goal of communication. Thus making communication a goal oriented process. Coming to the sixth feature of communication, which is communication is an interdisciplinary science. So how it is an interdisciplinary science? Knowledge derived from several sciences is used in communication. So communication is not just about speaking. We are also, we are also communicating it through our body language, through expressions, and by expressing our ideas, by expressing our emotions. So it is a study of body language. Anthropology, which is a study of body language, is called anthropology. It is a study of persuasion, perception, and attitudes. Obviously, when you are communicating, you have to have that level of persuasion. Your attitude should be correct. You have to perceive the same thing in mind, and whatever you're communicating is properly understood by the receiver. So it is a study of persuasion, perception, and attitudes. Sociology and political sciences, study of voting behavior. That once you're communicating, the what you are trying to explain, it has to be taken in the same manner, what like you have intended. So all of these studies combined together brings out the communication aspect. So that is why it is an interdisciplinary science, as communication is not only limited to mere expression of facts. It also involves study of body language, it also involves study of persuasion, perception, attitudes, it also involves study of voting behavior, and thus they have provided insights to make communication effect. Like, so what does interdisciplinary science, or what does these sciences contribute to communication? It makes it more effective, so thus making it a feature of communication. So let's go one by one with the headings we have designated them. Communication is a two-way process. Communication is an ongoing process. Communication not only consists of facts but ideas and emotions too. Communication is a dynamic process. Communication is a goal-oriented process, and communication is an interdisciplinary science.